Okay, so the plan is to start the third parak, but we did leave off on one thing which we did not explore last time, and it's connected to the beginning of the third parak. So the thing we left off on is in the second parak, Zion 2, smack dab in the middle. Kaf amru chachamim. Oh, sorry. V'lo yihye bal katata v'lo bal kina v'lo bal taiva v'lo rodif achar kavod. So a person shouldn't be a contentious person or a jealous person or a libidinous person, desirous person, or someone who chases after kavod. This is what the sages said, that jealousy and desire and honor remove a person from the world. And the question we had on that, which I don't think we answered, is it's weird that he lists 4 qualities and then he supports it with Chazal that only mentioned 3 qualities. The one he omits is Bal Katata. And we also didn't know what this was doing in this part of Hilchos Deios here. I mean, we got some. It fit in loosely with our general theory that like these are like areas that are difficult. These are areas that are like particularly egregious, but we didn't really have a good idea. So no, I don't think so. So I just wanted to really quickly read in the Rambam's commentary on Avot, on that Mishnah. This is in Pirkei Avot 4. In this edition, it's 427 on the right page, which I'm not going to put on this video because it's too much effort. Rabbi Eliezer HaKafar Omer Hakina V'Hatava V'Kavod Motzinas Adam in Olam, which is exactly the same as the way the Rambam has it. And the Rambam just has a very little thing that he says here. Amar Shakina V'Hatava V'Ahavas HaKavod. So that's already interesting. Ahavas HaKavod, right? So jealousy and desire per se, but then love of kavod.
Kavod is how other people look at you.
Mm-hmm.
Love of kavod is your inherent thing.
Okay, I hear that. That makes sense. Whereas opposed to kina and taiva are internal.
Yeah, you wouldn't say it's Talmud Chacham is mostly from the Olam because people get kavod.
Right. I guess the only way I was thinking of it though was with kavod being. I think you're correct technically speaking, but I guess what do you call it? I was thinking of kavod. Maybe it was just our fault that in English we use kavod this way of like. No, I guess we don't. Never mind. No, you're right. Yeah. And even the Rambam says rodef achar kavod, as opposed to bal kina, bal taiva, and then rodef achar kavod. Right? You can't be like bal kavod. I mean, you could be, but that's not the problem. Like you were saying. Okay. So then he says, motinas adam min ha'olam. Now I don't know how to read this grammatically. Motinas adam min ha'olam mafsid. Comma. And he mentions, Kafak mentions that in the footnote. It's in the printed versions. It's the word mafsid is omitted. So I just don't know what to make of that word mafsid. Hello. Okay. I would give you one of these, but it's literally like one more sentence. Lefi shebe'elu hamidos o ba'achas mehen. I could give you one of these. Oh, actually, I'll give you that. Yeah. Lefi shebe'elu hamidos o ba'achas mehen. We're rereading that line there about the taiva, kavod, kina, whatever the thing is. Because with these traits, o ba'achas mehen, or with one of them, hefsed hadas beheflate, is an absolute loss of the religion. Okay, v'lo yikne ha'adam lo ma'alos higionios lo ma'alos midotios, and a person will not acquire neither intellectual virtues nor ethical virtues. Yeah. So how is he learning that they remove you from the world?
World of Torah?
Yeah, it sounds like the world of like the type of perfection that the Torah is trying to give you,
Yeah.
midos development or intellectual development. And that's all he says, that that even one of them, certainly I guess all of them, remove you from that. So it doesn't help us much, but it does give us something to think about.
Yeah, it sounds like it has some sort of like absolutist effect.
Yeah. So I guess the question is like this. The question is, what is the difference between these 3 and then like any other thing that you could become obsessed with? Like let's say, for example, if you had, let's say money, right? Mm-hmm. I would think that money, if you become obsessed with money, that's also going to remove you from perfection, and the proof is that that's what the Meiri learns for the Perek Aleph of Tehillim, right? Is that the, Rishayim, I mean, he says kavod also, but like they're chasing money, So like, are these 3 just examples, or like these somehow like worse than others,
Yeah. Why is it not also like because like anger?
Yeah.
Isn't that like exactly what we said.
Right. In fact, he makes it sound like, based on the פירוש המשנה, he makes it sound like this is worse than anger, because anger just gets rid of your chachma. This gets rid of the entire perfection.
Yeah.
And what are the three words we're talking about?
Ina, jealousy.
Right.
Tava, desire, which base desire, I guess, like instinctual desire, and then kavod is honor or glory, loving honor and glory.
Not that jealousy even fits into the list.
Yeah, jealousy is a weird one. I mean, one thing that, okay, well, maybe this is already a direction.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, you were gonna say a direction?
No.
Okay. I mean, and I don't know if this is going to be to the exclusion of anything else, but these are all encompassing like obsessions. Like person becomes like, let's say like, I mean, the classic example of jealousy is like in a lover's spat or whatever, you know, like a person becomes insane with jealousy, you know, and kavod can definitely lend itself to that. Also, taiva is not so focused. It's more like a lifestyle type of obsession, not, you know, but I mean, I other than that, I don't really know, you know, I don't really know what to say. Yeah. And I don't see why money wouldn't fall into this either, you know.
Well, I feel like money could fall into kavod.
It could, yeah.
I think it could fall into kina.
Jealousy? Could be.
Right. I mean,
I think it could fall into taiva.
Well, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to show you how like everything could fall under these three things, or somehow.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know how anger would fit.
Yeah, no, that'd be interesting theory though. That would satisfy my desire, but like one of these three. I was serious with the taiva thing.
Is that straight taiva?
What? Yeah. Yeah.
And most things that are coming to mind, I feel like could fit in, but I'm not sure how. I mean, I guess jealousy, but like anger is definitely like an exclusive thing.
One thing though that makes anger different is anger is a reactive thing, whereas these are all pursuits. You know.
Even jealousy.
Yeah, because jealousy you're trying to get the thing,
right,
you know.
Right.
So these could be like three paths of like evil pursuits, or like, you know.
Right. Maybe he's just telling us the non-reactive.
Yeah.
Categories.
Yeah, like the way you talked about anger before was really like how you view yourself in the world and in society. Yeah.
Right.
Say it again.
I'm not sure what this is going to mean.
Yeah, but these are all encompassing pursuits. Like, let's say, for example, food. I mean, I guess food is part of taiva, but it's not kidding.
But that's a positive.
I mean, right? Yeah.
These are the negative pursuits.
Yeah, but now everything I'm thinking of does fit into one of these three. Like the example you mentioned earlier in the halacha, like work, you know, and he mentioned money earlier in the thing. You know, yeah, I don't know.
Right, but choosing money is not a daya.
I mean,
kavod is a daya.
He talked about it earlier. Basically.
As a daya?
Yeah, right at the beginning of this halacha of Zion 2. Lo yeh bal nefesh v'chava nibhal lahon, chasing after money. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
what was that, Chaim?
We talked about money earlier in the class.
We talked about spending money and saving money, and then we talked about giving away money and then keeping money for yourself. But we didn't talk about like making money until just now. What were you saying, Isaac?
I think like what you were saying. I think that these are like three paradigms of desire, not like type of desire, but like, and I'm certainly taiva as physical desire. These are three paradigms of like desires that like become like a drive in a person, and then if you're like consumed by one of these drives, then that's going to completely stop you from being able to develop not completely stop. It's like you're gonna be having a strong internal force towards something else and away from Chachma. And I think it does interact with other data. I don't think but these are you know, if you have, let's say, a strong desire, like desire for like expensive food, you know, very like very close, you want like lots of expensive food, then that's going to bring in with it, you know, let's say a desire for a lot of money, so you can spend on it. But like these will completely like change the way that you're operating decision making.
Yeah, and I think that's supported by the, and maybe I don't know, I don't think I'm reading too much into this. He does say bal kina, bal taiva, rodef achar kavod, which means that this is more than just like a hobby. This is what characterizes you. Like you are, even though the mission in Avos doesn't do that, but yeah, contentious person, like always like involved in fighting with people, not physically. Arguing with people.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what is going on.
Person you need to walk around, walk on eggshells around.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What is like going on with the person who's doing that?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that sounds like a short-tempered person, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like it's not just that these are active pursuits, but these are things that you're actively pursuing, and by actively pursuing them, they're going to take you, like, just by default. Like if you're actively pursuing these things, it's going to take you farther away from being involved in chachma.
Right.
And like the more involved you become in this, the farther from
Mhm.
chachma you be, and like the harder it will be to like gain or acknowledge.
I that's a good sense. I got that sense also. Yeah.
The argument of this might
You want me to pause? Is that what you're indicating?
Yeah.
Using very few words. Really juicy example. I'm just kidding. One thing to look at the footnote guy on the left on Motzinas Anamina Olam. So it sounds like a paraphrase of what we just read in the Rambam Bekius Mishnayos, but he has a nice little point here. A person who has one of these midos, Matidas Atmo, he destroys himself. Ve'eno kone lo midos sichlios velo midos hitnaha gutsios. Why do they have to change it into like these weird modern Israeli terms? He doesn't have any intellectual or behavioral midos. Now here's the new point. Umatzit et olamo ba'olam hazeh uba'olam haba. And he causes himself a loss of this world and the next. So I think that's a nice little idea, because that in a mishleic sense also, if your whole life is spent pursuing one of these things, it's gonna be totally consuming you, and you're not gonna perfect yourself for olam haba.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think we move on? The next paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this framework is a good way of like thinking about it.
Mhm.
I'm
Okay, good. Yeah. And again, we're going to see the topic be taken up from a different angle here. Okay. So now we're in Perek Gimel. Shema Yomar Adam, maybe a person will say, since desire and honor and other things like it, namely Hina and Kolkatata, right, are a bad path. Umotzin as Adam in Ha'olam, and they remove a person from the world. See, here, okay, new theory. When he says Kina Tava and Kavod removing from the world, it's not an exhaustive list. And the proof of it is the Rambam listed 4 things, and then the Quote Chazal that said 3 things, and then now he's saying 2 things and other stuff like it. There's lots of stuff that could take you out from the world, But I think the chiddush of that last point was if you are there are certain like vortex involvement where you just become sucked into a pursuit, and it just all the energy that you would spend perfecting your midos and your mind, there's just nothing left for that, because you're just pursuing cover, or just pursuing money, or just getting involved in fights with people, So I think that's the ikr is not the particulars, it's the vortex. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Vortex vices, that's what we'll call them.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so the person will say, since Taiva, Kavod, and other things like it are a bad path, and it was that phrase that got me to say it, because he says, if he just said are a bad path, I wouldn't be able to make this deal. But he says, and remove you from the world. Well, but because I'll say there's only 3. Well, clearly there are only 3, Yeah.
Otherwise, the 3 nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're talking about all bad days.
Yeah, it does sound like it.
Or like a large amount of bad days.
Right. Or at least let's put it this way: the ones that have a reputation for being bad. Because I think that there are in Deos of the 2 sides, there are ones that don't have a reputation for being bad. Like, for example, the stoic with a lowercase s, like the not reacting to things. I don't think people would say that's a bad derech. You need the Rambam to teach you that it's a bad derech. You don't have people making, well, I guess, yeah, you do, stoics, but no, you don't, like some of these Deos people make a whole lifestyle around, but some of them they don't. Like, people don't make a lifestyle around miserliness. That's just like, that's a bad idea that people feel like they get stuck with or whatever. But it's not like we're going to make it into a philosophy,
Yeah.
Okay. So since they are a bad path, efrosh mehen biyoser, I will exceedingly distance myself from them. The esrachig l'tzad achron, I'll go to the other extreme. Ad shelo yochel batar, to the point where he will not eat meat. V'lo yishteh yain, and he won't drink wine. V'lo yisa isha, and he won't get married. He won't marry a woman. V'lo yeshev b'dira na'eh, and he won't dwell in a beautiful house. V'lo yilbash malbush na'eh, and he won't wear nice clothing. Ela hasaf v'hatzemer hakasha v'kiyot behen. Only wool and harsh, coarse cloth. Oh, sorry, sackcloth and coarse wool and other things like them. You see from here that the Rambam holds there's other types of cloths. Okay, Kagon Kumre Edom, like the I guess Catholic priest is the plain shot here, right? Edom here, not Edomite. I don't think. I think this is Edom in the sense of like Christian. Yeah, like monks. Gamzo derech rahi v'asur leilach. This too is a bad path, and it is usher to go on it. So if you really were mocking on this, you would distance yourself from that bad path.
As opposed to
taiva and kavod and stuff.
Oh,
You distance yourself from the extremes, and then you're in the middle. Everything will be good.
Yeah.
The real ascetics are ascetic from asceticism. They give up on asceticism and go in the middle. Only kind of, yeah. Okay. So then he goes on. Hamhalech, we'll read it on and then we'll go back. Hamhalech b'derech zo nikra chote. Someone who, or should we stop and think about that for a second here? Let's just stop and think about it for 1 second to see if there's anything we can get out of it, because he's painting a portrait here.
Well, I think there is a feeling of like there's the bad. People have a tendency to not do it as you should be in the middle of the spectrum, but they say, look, they like look at one end of the spectrum like that's bad,
right?
So I'm going to go to the opposite extreme.
Yeah,
and in a certain sense, like maybe that's like easier in some way because like it's easier to like never speak at all than it is to like consciously think about when you should speak,
right?
When you shouldn't.
Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of wondering about. There certainly is an ease, and like in my mind, I don't know what if I made this up or if I got it from somewhere, that it's like I call it like the autopilot fantasy, that you could just find a thing that is supposed to be perfection and then just like try to go on autopilot and then it'll remove all your conflicts, and like actual perfection doesn't work that way. So like here it's like, oh, taiva is bad, I'm just going to avoid all taiva. Kavod is bad, I'm just going to avoid all kavod, and then I don't have to think about anything, and I don't have to like actually make decisions or like actually wrestle with my desires.
somehow just not doing that is going to perfect it.
Exactly. Yeah. Automatic. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I think another aspect of it is that there's a tendency to want to like view things as like black and white.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yeah, go ahead. That was the other thing I was going to say.
You want to be able to say like either wearing nice clothes is bad or good. And so like you say, oh, like you see if you're like like spending tons of money on like lavish clothes is like is bad. So therefore, or indulging in delicacies is a bad thing. So I can just write that off as bad, and therefore I can just eat bread and water.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say, is that there's a psychological appeal, and maybe they're connected, but like in being able to identify like this thing is the evil thing. This is the evil substance, or this is the evil. This is the evil lifestyle, or these are evil people. Just the black and white tendency. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because if let's say you see someone who's indulging in like a lavish lifestyle, and you're recognizing that that's bad. So if you can say it's like it's all intrinsically bad, then you don't feel conflicted about not doing it. Whereas if it's like okay in moderation, then it's painful that you're not at that.
So that's sounding like the first thing, and that's why I'm wondering if those are two sides of the same coin, or if one is just serving the other. I mean, the first one was the autopilot, like all I have to do is blank and then I'm good.
Yeah.
And I was trying to say that there's also a psychological appeal in being able to label something evil that's separate from the fact that it makes it easier for you, or that you think it's going to make it easier from you. Maybe that's the only appeal, that you could just like say it's evil and then.
It's just more clearly defined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'd say they're independent, but they also have a relationship.
Yeah, like I'll tell you why I'm thinking this, and two examples. Like the notion of, let's say, like a Zoroastrianism or Christianity, where there's a good God and there's a bad God, or like there's God and then there's the devil. Like making, like, for example, I don't think positing the existence of a devil or a pure evil force, I don't think that comes from the fact that it makes it easier for me to live. You know, I think there's like a psychological appeal to, like, there's evil, the whole world is divided into evil and good, you know? Yeah.
Right, but where's that psychological appeal coming from, if not for it benefiting you?
I don't know. That's what I'm not sure about. Yeah.
No.
Okay, fine, but yeah.
I mean, I could theorize.
I'm not gonna do that. That's different. That's
Yeah.
different thing. Yeah.
All right, good. Same page.
I like your theory.
I had a theory. I want to think about it some more. Yeah. I mean, I can see, I'll tell you what I was thinking, and then this might have nothing to do with this, though, is certainly when stuff happens to you, then you could see an appeal for there being a good God and a bad God, because you're defining all of reality based on you. You know, like the bad stuff that happens to me is being done by one force, and then the good stuff is being done by another force. You're defining it all based on how it impacts you, you know, but that seems to be removed from the, like, actions of evil and actions of good.
Yeah, I guess it's a way of turning your subjective phenomenon into, like, your subjective perception into, like, an objective phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because I guess if there's just one force, and it's not like the force is doing, it's not like it's doing good and it's doing evil, then that means like the evil has to come from a different. You're perceiving evil has to come from somewhere
Right,
else.
and then you have to change your perception, or you have to contend with your perception.
Yeah, and you have to, like,
All right, that's something we think about. But I think the more salient point for this is what you're saying is, or the first thing you said is this is gamzo derech rai. Sorry, no, that's not what he's saying. But it's a bad path, and or sorry, I meant to quote the first part of this is, since these things are all bad, I'm going to go to the opposite extreme. Like, it's the ease of just being able to identify something as bad and then saying, like, I'm going to avoid it at all costs. Yeah. Okay. Then he says, Hamhalach b'derech zo nikra chote. One who goes on this path is called a sinner. Hari hu omer b'nazir, it says about a nazir, v'siper alav me'asher chata al hanafish. So this is when he brings his korban at the end. He will atone for the fact that he sinned against his soul, against the soul. Amru, chachamim, the sages said, Uma im nazir shelo perich elamin hayayin tzarich kapara. So if the nazir who only separated from wine requires atonement, hamonea atma mikol davar achat kama v'kama. So someone who holds back from all things, then even more so. Right. So that's the philosophical idea in the Nazir's Korban, right? That we don't hold that giving up pleasure is intrinsically good. We hold that you might need to do it for, like, the Nazir is doing it for, like, you know, rehabilitation purposes, like to break his addiction to wine or whatever. But see, that's a remarkable thing, is that, like, even when he does that and he's doing it for a good reason, it partakes of bad. There's a philosophical idea like that it partakes of bad, and you have to recognize that by getting kapara. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, the Chachamim commanded that a person should only refrain from things that the Torah withheld them from alone. Not counting this tzivui of the Chachamim. And that a person should not prohibit himself with vows and oaths and other things on things that are mutter. Such said the sages, Lo daicha mash asar Torah, ela she'ata oter alacha dvarim acherim. Is it not enough for you what the Torah prohibited, that you prohibit upon yourself other things? Yeah.
Like, there's a statement in Dharam that anyone who makes a neder is like his fun and mama.
Yeah.
And anyone who is Mikayim a neder is if he's mafan.
Yeah. Did I write something on that?
I don't know if you wrote something on that. We're pretty lucky to hear.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of the shiurim I've been meaning to listen to.
Yeah.
Let me just see if I wrote something on it really quickly. Because I know I have a picture. Yeah, I know I have an article that's called Bli Neder, and it has the artwork called Carnage Altar. So I assume that might be.
Is that from original?
I don't remember. Hold on just 1 second here. All right, we'll have to see. Yeah, right. I think I did write about it. I'll have to check it out later on. Okay. Lefikach tzivu chachamim. Oh, I just read that. Yeah. Uvachlal hazeh, and included in this, elu shemis anin tamid, are those who fast, or literally who afflict themselves constantly, but it's talking about fasting. Einan derech tova. This is not the good path. The sages prohibited a person to misagif is like to I think that's another word for afflicting yourself. You know what that is? Yeah.
So rather than doing constant fasting, you can do intermittent fasting.
Yes, that is not affliction. Misagif is self-denial. Fine. So deprive himself through fast, I guess maybe. Regarding this and all these things, Shlomo commanded and said, and by the way, see, this is good. I mean, we've said this all year, but like, just because you use the word tivui and itzer does not mean that it's actually like a halachic thing, because Shlomo doesn't have the ability to like just make laws, do not be excessively righteous and do not be excessively wise. Why make yourself desolate? Yeah.
Doesn't desolate mean like lack of something?
Yeah, because that's what the guy's doing, is he's depriving himself of stuff.
And
it's saying like, if you just deprive yourself of food, you're just going to be sitting there without. Say it again. Yeah. So he should. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good question. Yeah. So the Nazir case does make it more difficult, because the Nazir. Right. So here's if we didn't have the Nazir, what I would say is that the method you're asking about, like the method he uses of curing bad deos, which is to go to the opposite extreme, right? So to me, that's different. Employing the opposite the opposite data, in order to get to the middle is different than saying, since this particular is a bad derech, I'm going to make a derech that is based on the opposite. Like the curing of the soul is not a derech. Yeah. Yeah. So now let's look at the Nazir, right? But is that distinction clear though? Like, there's a difference between saying I'm going to go to the opposite extreme until I can get to the middle, and that's never claiming the opposite extreme is a good derech. Then they're saying taiva is a bad derech, so I'm going to go to the good derech, which is no taiva, or the chavurah is a bad derech, I'm going to go to the opposite derech.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So now how does that fit in with Nazir? Because the Nazir again does seem to be a temporary thing that is used for corrective measures. So
well, that's not exactly what we're saying. It's going to be opposite.
But
in the middle.
We're saying that the Nazir though is partaking in a chait by giving up wine.
Also, we're saying, why are we saying that?
Yeah.
He's just doing that to go back to the middle.
Right. Now you could say that he's partaking of a chait, but the Nazir's derech is not a bad derech, because the Nazir is doing it for rehabilitative purposes, if you're doing it for the right reasons. I mean, we never say that the Nazir himself is on a derech ra'ah. We just say that his prisha from the wine, his separation from wine, is a chait that needs kapara.
And maybe also like it would be a lot easier to make the mistake by the case of the Nazir, that like going to like creating an opposite derech is good and not bad, as opposed to like when the Rambam's talking about going the opposite extreme, he's making it very clear that we're doing that to get to the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So even though in this case it's clearly going the opposite extreme to get to the middle, I feel like in the case of the Nazir, it would be easier to make the mistake that like, oh, if something's bad, just go to the opposite and like keep doing the opposite. So that's why you have to stress here,
Right.
like, and don't think that like going the opposite is a good thing. No, that's still a bad thing, but the specific circumstances here require that, and like he's doing it to get to the middle, just to like make sure no one trips up and make that mistake.
Now, I agree with you, but I want to know why you're saying what you're saying, because the reason I agree with you might be different. So why is it more difficult to spot in the case of the Nazir such that you need an extra reminder?
Right.
Because I do agree with that. I'm just saying, like,
Right. Well, I mean, my reasoning was like not really so much like it's more just like the way it's presented. Meaning, like I'm comparing this to the Rambam saying go to the opposite extreme, and like when the Rambam says go to the opposite extreme, he says go to the opposite extreme so you can get to the middle. So like there's no room to make that mistake. He's making it clear. But like it's possible I just don't know enough about this, but I don't feel like it's being presented like go to the opposite extreme to get to the middle. It's more so being presented as like you have this problem, do this, and then like in order to rectify people making the mistake of like only doing the opposite, they say, but don't think that the opposite's good. The opposite will get you there. But I don't know. I guess I don't really have a good reason.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, yeah, and I mean, I hear the intuition. You have an idea?
We said before that you don't say that going that wrong.
Yeah.
Not going that wrong. This found that one thing in then with all the things you're talking about that one.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think I'm
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. I hear.
So
Yeah, he's saying that I was trying to make the Nazir a separate case, and Chaim's pointing out that, and I was making the distinction based on whether it's a Derech Ra or not. And Chaim's pointing out that the first sentence of Aleph 2, which introduces the Nazir, is "Hamahalach b'derech zo nikra chote." One who walked on this path is called a chote. So it makes it sound like it's a derech, you know. But just to answer your question, or to expand on what you were saying, is I think it's easy to think that the Nazir is a good path because a Nazir is an entire like identity that you take upon yourself, you know, and he's described as Kinezer Elokav al Rosho or something like that. Is that like what he's described as like being holy and like he's got,
even though we're saying he's doing the bad path.
Well, that's what the Rambam's saying, you know. But in the Torah, like it sounds like he's a like an elevated level, and not only that, but the Ramban actually holds that he should be a Nazir forever. You know, that the ideal is to be a Nazir. You know, or the Rambam does not say that. You know. So the Ramban holds that the Korban is for not being a Nazir anymore. Yeah, it's for stopping his Naziris. Yeah. Side point that I was just talking about with Rindy on Sunday. Was it yesterday Sunday? Yeah, it's been a long day today. Is he said it's an interesting thing that the closest thing we have in Judaism to a monk or to like an ascetic is the Nazir. But it's interesting that there's no sexual restrictions whatsoever on the Nazir. You know, like not all other societies, but many other societies that have like a monk-like existence, then that's one of the things that they curtail, you know. And the only people we have who we do that with is you could argue with Kohanim, but not really, because that's not even that's not even sexual restrictions. It's just like certain sexual partners that they're not allowed to have. But then Nevi'im, when they're actively involved in getting nevuah, you know, and like Moshe is the only one who had to like separate from his wife permanently, you know. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it, like, you know, there's no like special restrictions on another, but like everyone has restrictions and like, you know.
No, but not
for a monk though.
Yeah, I'm saying like in other societies they don't have any restrictions for like the average person. Anyway.
That could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like the formula for like a person like becoming a monk like isn't necessarily like he has like this clearly defined problem and so in order to fix it he becomes a monk. Like it's possible that a person can do that, but like separately someone might decide to become a monk. That's very much
so. I guess I was thinking when I made the statement just now, even though I didn't introduce it like that, I was thinking in the Ramban framework that this is like an ideal. He's not doing it to cure himself of a particular thing with the intent to go back to normal. You know.
So then I guess you fall back on what Isaac said. Like, well, we still have the base standard. Maybe like other societies don't have. Also, one other point is in the beginning by Aleph 2, when it seems like he's saying it's like a bad path that he's doing. I feel like it's possible that he's not talking about the path of Nazirus, of like trying to go back to the middle, but he's talking about like the path that he's in or the path that like he was going down before he decided to be a Nazir, of like being an alcoholic or whatever. Like, and that would make a lot more sense. That like, like that's not, I don't know if you could read it that way. But.
Well, I mean, here's how I think you could tell me if this is in line with what you're saying. Is he describes this derech in Aleph 1, which is like someone who identifies a particular thing as evil and then says, I'm going to avoid it. So then in Aleph 2, he's saying someone who follows that path of like going to the opposite extreme of things that you label evil is called a chote. And then the proof for that is that by the Nazir, then his abstention from wine is considered a chait.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the Nazir is engaged in the behavior of labeling something as evil and then saying I'm going to go to the opposite extreme. That's not what a Nazir is even. I mean, it's it's a specific formula. Like you have to do all three of them of not cutting your hair, not having great products, and then not being tame with too much mace.
Right.
So in other words, he's describing. In other words, he's not saying if you go on the path of the Nazir, then you're following an evil path. He's saying that if you follow this evil path, you're called a chote, and the proof is that the Nazir partakes of that, even though the Torah endorses the institution of Nazirut, but you still are partaking of faith, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little stretch.
Okay, let's go on, and let's finish the parak, because all right, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I feel like I've read this a bajillion times, but there's a lot of examples, but we'll see. Sorry, Adam Shia. So now, one question we're gonna have to ask here is what's the unity? Okay, in halacha, what this printed different calling halacha aleph, and then the rest of the parak. Okay, because this is a distinct shift here. This is a pivot point. Sorry, Adam Shia Kavin Kolma Asav Kulam today Leda as Hashem Baruch Hu Bilvad. A person needs to orient all of his actions, all of them, in order to know the name, blessed is he alone, to know God.
This is like baseline level or like
this is an ideal, I think.
yeah.
His sitting, his standing, and his speaking. Hakol umas zadavar. Everything should be for that end. How so? When he does business, or when he does work to get payment, he should not have intention to gather money alone. Rather, so that he should intend in his work to find the things that his body needs in food and drink and dwelling in a house and getting married. So in other words, not for the money, for the practical needs. Okay. So too, when he eats and drinks and has intercourse, he should not have the intention just to get enjoyment. To the point where he only eats and drinks what is sweet to the palate. And he has intercourse to get enjoyment. Rather, when he eats and drinks, he should have intent to make his body healthy alone, his body and limbs healthy alone. Therefore, you should not eat everything that the palate desires, like a dog or a donkey. Like they do, yeah. Meaning not eating dogs and donkeys.
Yeah.
You also shouldn't do that because they're not kosher. But yeah.
I have no desire to eat a dog or a donkey.
Good.
Yeah,
Then you're already ahead of the game in terms of perfection.
Yeah, at first I thought this was what you were saying.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah, so it would be confusing. Ella yochol devarim hamo'ilin lo. He should eat things that are beneficial for him. Im marim im matukim, whether they're bitter or sweet. Meaning, benefit should be the main reason for eating, not taste. V'lo yochol devarim haraim laguf, and you should not eat things that are bad for the body. Alfa pi she'im matukim lachech, even though they're sweet to the palate. Ketat, how so? Yeah.
So this is still like the idea, not like this based on faith.
I mean, he says sorry, right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning this as the ideal, because I feel like you can't say that this is a baseline chiyuv,
Yeah.
because there's no way you get higher than this.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the full picture.
Yeah.
So Lafi, I read that. Kate Sad.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Kate Sad. Mishai Basaro Khan. So here we get a little bit of this is a sneak peek of the next chapter, which Chaim is not gonna like. We'll see if you got anything.
I just kind of want to do it.
Yeah.
What we've been doing now.
Yeah. So if someone has hot flesh, not talking about like cholent hot flesh, lo yochal basar v'lo devash. So you shouldn't eat meat or honey. Lo yishteh yain, and he shouldn't drink wine. Amar Shlomo derech mashal, like Shlomo says by way of mashal, achol dvash harbos lo tov. Eating a lot of honey is not good. V'shoseh mei ha'alashin, and drinking what's mei ha'alashin? It's like vegetable, herbal somethings. Alash sounds like nasty vegetable stuff. Alash is
Torium intibus.
oh, there you go. Torium intibus.
What does he mean when he says?
I know.
They had this thing of like the bodily temperatures being out of whack were the cause of diseases. So let's say, for example, if you had a fever, that meant your body is producing, like you have too much heat, and so you have to like balance it out with cold or something like that. You know,
You actually drink this hot.
you drink this hot.
Yeah, my shiur is too. That's why you have Polish.
You shouldn't drink the Alashin, and you shouldn't drink.
Yeah. Alpha Pishu Mar. Oh, because even though it's bitter. Turns out he's eating and drinking by way of medicinal reasons alone. So that he should become healthy and stand intact. Because it's impossible for a person to live without food and drink. Yeah.
I think I have a way of uniting this in the previous part.
Okay, hold on for just a while. Hopefully we'll get to it today. Pain kishiyivol. So too when he has bia. Lo yivol ela k'dei lahavros gufo uk'dei l'kaim es hazera. So there's only two reasons you should have bia. One is for bodily health, and the other is, I assume l'kaim es hazera means to have offspring.
When is the first
First thing, I think they had this thought also. Yeah, they thought that if you don't like have any sort of like seminal emission for a while, then that's going to throw your body out of whack. So like there's like intervals of like I mean this is their whole theory, right? Is that any fluid excess in the body was like bad, or any fluid deficiency is good, or is also bad, you have to like have your balance, So he says now, you shouldn't have bia anytime you desire. Anytime you know you need to get rid of the excess. Like the way of healing or in order to establish offspring. What was that? Then we would say that's not a relevant thing,
Only the second reason.
No,
only second reason, yeah. Right.
What is the definement?
No, so like
I thought you don't say that.
wait, I missed that last point.
So we still hold with the iyun when you we still hold.
Yeah, we don't know about the particular, yeah, right.
So when it only for
Yeah, seemingly, unless there's something I don't know about medicine-wise. Hamani asma al pia refuah. See, I'm not interested in going into all these details about the medicine stuff. I just want the main points. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense to go into details because of Rambam Bekius.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Hamani asma al pia refuah. Someone who conducts himself based on the dictates of health. Im sam alibo. It's not now. Here comes a new level, though. Okay. So far he's been talking about doing what's healthy. Okay, but now he says like this: Hamaning atma al pia refuah. If you're doing stuff based on health. Im sam al libo sheyi kol guf of evarav shleimim chazakim bilvad. If his only intent is that his body and limbs should be intact and strong alone, v'sheyi lo banim osim malachto v'amilim sarko, and that he should have kids who do his work and toil on his behalf. Ein do derech tova. That's not a good path. So even doing it for health is not good. Okay, why? If that's the only reason you're doing it. Ella yasim al libo sheyi gufo shalim b'chazak kidei titiye nafsho yeshara ladatas Hashem. Rather, you should have in mind that your body should be intact and strong so that your soul should be straight to know God. Because it's impossible to contemplate and gaze upon chachmos when he's sick, or when one of his limbs is causing him pain. And he should have the intent to have a son, because maybe he'll be a wise and great one in Israel. Meaning, not just he's going to be your like child slave, and carry on the family business, but he's going to be a chacham, right? So not just physical health and success, but like Yidiyat Hashem success. Consequently, one who conducts himself on this path for all of his days. Now, this is where the Rambam introduces the radical new idea. Not new, but like, if you follow this path, then you're serving God constantly. Afilu b'shah shenoseh v'noseh, even when you're doing business. Afilu b'shah sheboel, even when you are having bia. Mipnei shemachashavto bakol kadei sheyimtza tzrachav, because his intent in everything is so that he finds his need. Ad yehei gufo shalom la'avodas Hashem, to the point where his body is perfect or intact to be able to serve Hashem. Afilu b'shah shu yashen, even at the time when he is asleep. Im yashen la da'as, if he sleeps with the knowledge. Kadei shetanuach dato alav, with the knowledge that he's resting his mind or his psyche, the anuach gufo, and resting his body, kadei shelo yechla, so he doesn't become sick. Like you should read that book. V'lo yuchal la'avodas Hashem v'hu chola, because he can't serve Hashem when he's sick. Nimses shena shelo avodah l'malkam baruch hu. Constantly, his sleep is service to God. Blessed is he. Well, it's inyan zeh tzivu chachamim v'amru, and regarding this, the chachamim commanded and said, all of your actions should be for the sake of heaven. This is what Shlomo said in his wisdom. In all your ways know him. Yeah.
Why do we want to go through the next paragraph quickly, or like Bekius style?
Oh, we'll talk about when we get there.
Okay.
You'll see it from the first halacha.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so in going back to that earlier in the main halachas.
Yeah.
So in
the base halachas, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we feel like you can only eat things that not be in for you.
Mhm.
But that's like when you're doing it, this is like your form of when you're doing like after the like if you think you can whatever and something that.
I didn't get that last part. Say it again.
But I feel like I'm reading, now is
Right.
How I everything. Not kind of like nothing hitting in what you said.
I thought you were saying you should eat based on health all the time.
What does that mean?
Means that you should, the primary consideration in how you select your food should not be based on taste. It should be based on what is good for you. You know.
I guess my question is that doesn't like food. Doesn't think you shouldn't consider taste at all, or that
so it sounds like he's saying that you shouldn't consider taste at all. What I would say, and I think that there's precedent for saying this, is that taste is important in terms of like for psychology. For example, if you're only eating like, Soylent or whatever, and so you're getting all of your like nutrition, but it's just like this bland stuff, then that's probably not gonna be very motivating in terms of like you eating, and I think the raya though is like Oneg Shabbos, is that on Shabbos you have specifically like larger quantities and higher qualities of food than you need. Why? Is because psychologically we do need that from time to time in order to put ourselves in the proper mentality to know Hashem, and I think there's precedent for, or there's he elaborates on this in the Shmona Prakim about when he's talking about the role of psychological pleasures of like looking at beautiful paintings and like taking walks in like beautiful gardens and like having a beautiful house. Is there's a certain psychological like equilibrium that you need to have for the same reasons he said here is in order to know Hashem, and I think taste is a part of that, but I think that the primary thing should be health, and also if you could, I think here he would say if you could train yourself to be able to not really care as much about taste and to only do based on what's healthy, that would be the ideal. But but the primary thing is that what you're eating is healthy. Yeah, you have a theory now for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I do too.
Yeah. The first two problems he's talking about, or really the second part, he's talking about the bad end of a bunch of spectrums, the classical bad midos.
Yeah.
Of those deos.
Yeah.
So then start off the second part saying the other extreme is also bad.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning saying if you go too far to one extreme, if you're in this extreme, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's saying the other extreme is also bad.
Yeah.
And so then he's painting a picture. So he says, that's also bad. And then he talks about what living a life like the middle Derech looks like, which is not just that you aren't being pulled to either one, but you're making decisions based on a proper assessment of what the purpose of the thing is.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me if this is saying the same thing in different words, or if it's saying something different. Is in the first two paragraphs, he's only dealing with Deos, which has to do purely with your your personality traits and your psychological dispositions. And there, the middle path is just the fluidity, and then the chassid is what we said for the Ratzon Hashem. But he hasn't set a value system yet. Perek Gimel is about the improper and proper value systems. Improper value system is where you label things, these things bad, and say that the good is just the opposite of these bad things. And he's saying that that itself is bad because it's an extreme. But the actual value system that you could have is Yedias Hashem, and that's where the middle path fits into. That the middle path makes you ideally suited to be able to pursue Yedias Hashem. But if you just had the first two prakim of Deos, you wouldn't have a value system in Judaism yet. You would just have like like Deos is just a means to an end, but the end is being filled out here.
So that was not what I was saying, but it dovetails nicely with it.
Okay, you want
Yeah.
to state the dovetail?
Yeah, because I think it's like if you're talking about Deos, and he was talking about how you should be in the middle. For each one, he's focusing on like the bad extreme,
Mhm.
and then in terms of implementing that, in terms of implementing the first two programs as a lifestyle, a person might say, oh, if you look at one extreme, there's an extreme that people are naturally pulled towards that's like really bad. So you're gonna go. So I'm gonna go to the opposite extreme.
Yeah.
And think like that's not how you. It's not how you implement what he's talking about in the first program, and it's not that all. It's not a good lifestyle. Really, the good lifestyle is doing the middle derech, which is as I mean to like living a lifestyle of Yiddish.
I feel like I'm still missing something in what you're saying.
Yeah, I think they're both true.
Mhm.
Because, the second paragraph spends a lot of time talking about like how audience is bad, or highest are not good examples, but how like Tina and Tava are bad, and how excessive speaking is bad, like, and so the natural response to that is to try to spring back for other direction.
Mhm.
And saying that's not the right direction, but the middle path is the right direction.
Mhm.
And I think you're right also that he's also presenting the framework of a person like trying to implement the system of data.
Mhm. So then maybe the term we need to clarify here is in the first two chapters, he was really focused on Deos.
Yeah.
But then by the end of the second chapter, and I guess at some points in earlier on. And I'm also explaining the first half. I'm trying to say that I'm trying to unify the third parak by saying that the third parak is about values, value systems. And maybe another term, maybe the thing I was about to say just now is going to help with this, is that there's a difference between Deot and then Derech. And here he's really talking about the Derech. Derech encompasses lots of Deot, or it encompasses an attitude towards Deos. And there's the Derech of there's the Derech Ra'ah of making an extreme dea into your lifestyle, whether Kina and Taivan Kavod, or like anti-Kina Taivan Kavod. And then there's the Derech of Yedias Hashem. That's B'chol Derachacha Da'ehu. And that's what it ends off with, is whole Derachacha,
Yeah.
I was gonna say one more thing also. I don't remember. Okay. So it's like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I cannot provide more excitement for the conclusion of this Rambam. I mean, again, this Rambam is the most my favorite parak in Deos, but it's just that I feel like I've read this so many times this year that all of the excitement is out of me.
I mean, I was just joking.
I know. Yeah. No, but I feel like there's more to say about this, but I feel like this is like. Yeah. Especially like in the Soju podcast, I quote this all the time,
Yeah.
But so
I was gonna ask you where you've read it.
oh yeah. I mean, most recently I did it like last week, Thursday. The obstacle is the way to knowing Hashem. That's the title of the episode.
I don't know if I listened to it.
Ah, that was a good one. That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today.
All right.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Uh,